Welcome back to your favorite channel, Rare Coins History, for all things rare, remarkable, and ridiculously valuable hiding in plain sight. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of one of America's most iconic coins, a tiny copper treasure with a legendary story. It's small, round, and reddish-brown. You've probably held one. You might have dozens in your change jar right now. But today, we're talking about a specific version of the 1955 Lincoln wheat penny, one that's far more than just 1 cent. One that could be the gateway to a coin collector's dream come true. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what makes this little coin so special, and why one particular version with a tiny mint mark and a colossal error has stunned experts and sold for a mind-blowing amount. Let's rewind to the mid-1950s, a decade defined by jukeboxes, leather jackets, and the early days of rock and roll. America was booming. Soldiers had come home from World War II, the baby boom was underway, and the U.S. Mint was working around the clock to meet the nation's demand for currency. Enter the humble Lincoln wheat penny. This coin had already been in circulation for decades by 1955. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the penny was the first U.S. coin to feature the face of a real person. Prior to that, it was all allegorical figures: Lady Liberty, eagles, shields. But Lincoln was a game-changer. The obverse side showed the solemn, thoughtful profile of the 16th president. The reverse was adorned with 2 elegant wheat stalks curving along the sides, framing the words, 1 cent, and United States of America. Hence the name, wheat penny. And while most years passed without incident in the mint's production, 1955 was different. Very different. That year, something happened that turned a routine coin into a legendary piece of American numismatics, one of the most talked about and sought-after error coins in the world. We're talking about the 1955 double-die Lincoln cent. This is not just any penny. It's not just old. It's not just rare. It is famously flawed, and in the world of coin collecting, that's exactly what you want. So what exactly is a double die? In simple terms, it means that the coin die, the metal stamp used to press the design into the coin, was improperly manufactured. The die itself was struck twice, slightly misaligned. As a result, every coin it stamped came out with a noticeable, eerie-looking double image, especially visible on the words, Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date, 1955. Now here's where it gets fun. When these flawed pennies were released into circulation, no one noticed right away. It wasn't until they were already being handed out as change at grocery stores, gas stations, and diners that collectors began to realize something looked off. But by then, it was too late. Tens of thousands had already slipped into the hands of ordinary Americans. Over time, most of them were spent, lost, or damaged beyond recovery. But a few lucky individuals noticed the strange doubling, stashed them away, and unknowingly preserved some of the most coveted coins in American history. And if you happen to come across one with a mint mark, for example, a small D for Denver or S for San Francisco, well, then you're entering ultra-rare territory. While most known 1955 double-die pennies were minted in Philadelphia and have no mint mark, there have been verified examples with mint marks that raise all kinds of questions among collectors, and exponentially raise the value. Now let's talk about what makes these coins valuable beyond the famous doubling. First, condition. Like all coins, the 1955 double die with a mint mark is graded on a 70-point scale. The closer it is to uncirculated, no scratches, no wear, full original luster, the more valuable it becomes. A worn example may fetch a few hundred or even a few $1,000s. But a mint condition specimen? That's where dreams are made. Second, rarity. Even among error coins, this one stands out. Not only is it one of the clearest and most dramatic double dies ever released into circulation, but it's also one of the most widely recognized by collectors. And examples with an authentic mint mark are even fewer. Some experts believe only a tiny fraction were ever struck. Third, story and legacy. This isn't just a coin. It's a symbol. A mistake that became a masterpiece. A coin that was never supposed to happen, but did, and changed the way people viewed errors forever. It's been featured in books, It's been the focus of documentaries. It has its own chapters in coin catalogs and price guides. And for collectors, owning a 1955 double-die penny, especially one with a mint mark, is like owning a piece of magic. Now, how do you know if you have one? Step 1. Look at the date. Does the 1955 look doubled? Step 2. Check the lettering. Is Liberty blurry or doubled, especially the B and the THR? Step 3. Flip the coin and look for a mint mark under the date. If there's a clear D or S, and all other signs of doubling are present, you may be holding one of the rarest coins ever accidentally released into the public's hands. And now we come to the big question. How much is it worth? Well, if you've got a worn-out version with doubling and no mint mark, you're already looking at hundreds, possibly thousands, of dollars. If you've got one in near-perfect condition, the value climbs steeply. But if you have a genuine 1955 double-die Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, authenticated and professionally graded in mint state condition, then you're in for a number that defies logic for a coin most people wouldn't even glance at twice, because that penny, that tiny copper disc, once sold in a private sale for a staggering $85,000. That's right. A coin worth 1 cent when it was made, now valued higher than most new cars. And it's still out there. In old coin jars. In forgotten drawers. In dusty boxes of inherited collectibles. So the next time you're flipping through your change, or rummaging through a family collection, keep your eyes open. Because what you're holding might just be a little piece of history, and maybe even your ticket to a big payday. Today, we're diving into a coin that many have overlooked, but few truly understand. It's small, it's copper, and to the average person, it might look like any other penny. But what if I told you that one of the most unassuming coins in American history could be worth more than a luxury car, or even more than a down payment on a house? Yes, today, we're talking about the 1936 Lincoln wheat penny, specifically those rare ones stamped with a mint mark. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for, how to spot a treasure hiding in plain sight, and just how much this little coin could be worth. Let's set the stage. The year was 1936. America was still grappling with the effects of the Great Depression. Jobs were scarce, money was tight, and every single cent counted, literally. Pennies weren't just thrown into jars or dropped on sidewalks. People paid attention to them. They used them. They saved them. And back then, a penny could actually buy you something. A gumball. A newspaper. Even a loaf of bread in some places. So when a new penny entered circulation, it didn't sit around. It moved. Now, enter the 1936 Lincoln wheat penny. At first glance, it looks like your typical wheat cent. You've got Abraham Lincoln's distinguished profile on the obverse, just as you do with every Lincoln penny. And on the reverse? Those two graceful stalks of wheat curving around the words, 1 cent, and United States of America. It's simple. Classic. Iconic, but here's where it gets interesting. Most people don't realize that not all 1936 pennies are created equal. In fact, that year, the U.S. Mint produced pennies in 3 different locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, with a D mint mark; and San Francisco, with an S mint mark. While the Philadelphia coins were produced in massive numbers, the D and S mint mark versions were struck in much smaller quantities, and if you think rarity is the only thing that makes them valuable, think again, because the real value in the 1936 Lincoln wheat penny doesn't just come from its age or its mint mark. It comes from a handful of rare errors, varieties, and unbelievably well-preserved examples that have become the stuff of legend in the coin collecting world. Let's talk about one of the most fascinating aspects first, the double die. Yes, even in 1936, the U.S. Mint was not immune to making mistakes. A small batch of pennies that year was created using a double die obverse, meaning that during the process of hubbing, when the die is made, the design was imprinted twice, just slightly off alignment. The result? An unmistakable doubling effect on parts of the coin, especially the date, Liberty, and the famous, "In God We Trust" motto. To the untrained eye, it might look like a printing error. But to a seasoned numismatist? It's a jackpot. Now, imagine you're holding a 1936 penny with a double die, and it has a clear D or S mint mark underneath the date. That combination of an error, a mint mark, and strong condition is exactly what collectors dream of, but even without the doubling, condition plays a massive role in a coin's value. Let's break it down. Most of the 1936 pennies in circulation today are worn. After nearly 90 years, most of them have been handled, dropped, scraped, and rubbed down to the copper. Their edges are smooth, the wheat stalks on the back are faint or gone, and Lincoln's cheekbones have faded like an old photograph, but a few, just a few, were stashed away. Maybe someone collected them that year. Maybe a coin roll was forgotten in a drawer. Maybe a bank teller set one aside, never realizing its future importance. These are the coins that survive in mint state condition, graded as MS 60 and above. The highest possible grade is MS 70, a perfect, flawless coin. And while MS 70 1936 pennies are virtually unheard of, coins graded in the MS 66 to MS 68 range can bring in stunning values, especially if they have that all-important mint mark. And don't forget, back in 1936, no one expected coins to become collectibles. These weren't made for investors. They were made to spend. That's what makes surviving high-grade examples so incredible. So let's talk about what to look for. First, check the date. It should clearly read 1936. Then look just beneath the date for that small mint mark, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. Already, you've narrowed it down. Next, examine the lettering. Does anything look doubled? Pay close attention to "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." If the letters appear blurry or slightly off, you may have a double die obverse variety. And finally, check the overall condition. Is Lincoln's coat crisp and detailed? Are the wheat stalks on the reverse still bold and visible? Are there few or no scratches? Is there luster? If you've got all these things, congratulations. You may be holding a serious piece of American history, and a coin that collectors would love to get their hands on. Now let's take things to the extreme. Imagine this, a 1936 Lincoln wheat penny with a clear mint mark, struck with the double die obverse, in near-perfect condition, professionally graded and certified by one of the top services like PCGS or NGC. We're talking about a coin that has it all: rarity, error, condition, and historical value. That coin doesn't just sit in a collector's album. It becomes the centerpiece of a private collection. It gets featured in auctions. It makes headlines in the numismatic world, and when it goes up for sale, that's where the story turns from fascinating to jaw-dropping, because one of these incredibly rare and pristine 1936 wheat pennies, struck in Denver, featuring the double die, and preserved in near-flawless condition, was sold to a private collector for a whopping $145,000. Yes, you heard that right. A coin that originally cost 1 cent, a coin most people would ignore. A coin smaller than a bottle cap, now worth more than many luxury cars or college tuitions. So the next time you're sorting through a handful of old change, take a closer look. Because that dusty old wheat penny in your hand might just be the next big discovery. Today, we're going to uncover the secrets of a coin so easily overlooked, it might just be sitting unnoticed in a jar in your house right now. We're talking about the 1939 Lincoln wheat penny, a tiny copper piece of American history that could be worth more than most people expect. And if it has a mint mark, you might want to hold onto it like gold. At first glance, the 1939 Lincoln wheat cent doesn't seem like much. It's copper. It's small. It was produced in the millions. But as every serious coin collector knows, the real value often lies in the details: the mint mark, the strike quality, the condition, and occasionally, the mistakes the mint never meant to make. Let's travel back in time for a moment. The year is 1939. America is slowly pulling itself out of the Great Depression, and across the ocean, World War II is beginning to stir. The world is changing fast, and so is the economy. Pennies aren't just pocket change, they're essential. Every cent counts. And during that time, the United States Mint was still producing what would become one of the most beloved designs in U.S. coinage history, the Lincoln wheat penny, this coin had already been in circulation for 30 years by 1939. First issued in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and what a fitting choice Lincoln was. His profile appears on the obverse, noble and stoic, surrounded by the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date. On the reverse, we see the classic wheat stalks curving around the edges, one on the left, one on the right, encasing the bold words, 1 cent and United States of America. It's simple, clean, and now, instantly recognizable, but in 1939, not all pennies were created equal. That year, the U.S. Mint produced pennies in 3 different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins minted in Philadelphia came with no mint mark, coins from Denver featured a small D under the date, coins struck in San Francisco had an S beneath the date. The Denver and San Francisco mint pennies are much more scarce, and collectors especially prize them today. While millions were minted, far fewer survived in top condition. And here's where things start to get interesting, because not only are these mint mark coins harder to find, but some of them also include tiny variations and errors that can multiply their value dramatically. Now let's talk about why the 1939 wheat penny with a mint mark is so special. First, let's start with rarity. Although the mint struck plenty of pennies in 1939, most of them were heavily circulated. That means they were used every day, passed from hand to hand, scraped in pockets, dropped on sidewalks, and worn down over decades. Today, finding one of these coins in uncirculated or near-perfect condition is incredibly rare. But when you combine that high-grade condition with a Denver or San Francisco mint mark, you're talking about a true rarity. Second, let's look at errors and varieties. One of the most fascinating aspects of old coins are the minting errors that slipped through unnoticed. Some 1939 Lincoln cents have been found with die cracks, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and even double dies, all of which significantly boost a coin's value. For example, a repunched mint mark, RPM, occurs when the mint mark was punched into the die more than once in slightly different positions, creating a noticeable doubling of the letter. In the 1930s, these were done manually, which led to a lot more human error, and a lot more opportunity for collectible variants. Some 1939 pennies show a strong repunched D or S, which can dramatically increase their appeal to collectors. These RPMs are catalogued and graded, and when found in high condition, they command serious money. Next, we have grade and condition. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, ranging from 1 to 70. A grade of MS 60 or higher means the coin is in mint state, essentially uncirculated. The higher the grade, the fewer the flaws, and the more desirable the coin becomes. In the case of the 1939 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, coins graded MS 66, MS 67, or higher are exceedingly rare. That's because copper is a soft metal, it scratches easily, tarnishes quickly, and doesn't age as gracefully as silver or gold. So finding a nearly flawless penny that's been preserved since 1939? That's the numismatic equivalent of finding a needle in a haystack. And now let's imagine the ultimate scenario: you stumble across a 1939 Lincoln wheat penny in an old coin roll or a family collection. It's clean, sharp, lustrous. You flip it over and notice a clear D or S mint mark. The wheat stalks on the back are bold. Lincoln's coat has full detail. The coin has a rich red-orange tone, typical of well-preserved copper. Maybe it even shows signs of a minting error, a double die, a repunched mint mark, or a faint die crack. You decide to send it off to be graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC, and when it comes back, you realize you're not just holding a penny, you're holding history, you're holding rarity, you're holding a coin that collectors all over the world dream of. And when it goes up for auction, the bidding war begins. Private collectors, museums, numismatic investors, because that one tiny coin, a 1939 wheat penny with a mint mark in near-perfect condition, doesn't just draw interest, it draws numbers, and not just any numbers, because that single copper cent, originally minted during one of the most uncertain periods in American history, was eventually sold for a jaw-dropping $105,000. Yes. A penny. A coin most people wouldn't bother to pick up off the ground, now worth more than some people's annual income. So next time you're sorting through a box of old change, or helping a relative clean out a drawer full of junk, don't dismiss that worn-looking penny from 1939. Look closer, because you might just be holding one of the rarest and most valuable coins still hiding in plain sight. Today's episode might just blow your mind, because we're about to reveal the story behind a tiny copper coin that looks like any other, but could be worth more than you ever imagined. We're talking about the 1958 Lincoln wheat penny, and if yours has a mint mark, you'll definitely want to stick around. This coin may only say 1 cent on the back, but by the end of this video, you'll see why it has captured the attention of collectors and dealers for generations, and why it could be the key to unlocking a small fortune. Let's step back in time for a moment. The year is 1958. America is in the middle of the post-World War II boom. Gasoline is 25 cents a gallon. Elvis Presley is topping the charts. Families are flocking to brand new suburbs, the television is changing how people see the world, and the US Mint is doing what it has always done, producing millions of coins every day for the American people. But 1958 wasn't just any year for pennies. In fact, it was the final year of a beloved design that had been in use for nearly half a century, the Lincoln wheat cent. First minted in 1909, this coin honored the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, and marked the very first time a real person, not a symbolic figure, appeared on an American coin. The obverse of the coin features the now iconic profile of Lincoln himself, his gaze focused and calm, with the words, "In God We Trust," arched above his head, "Liberty," to the left, and the date, 1958, on the right. Just below the date, depending on where the coin was minted, you might spot a small letter, either D for Denver or no mint mark at all, indicating it was made in Philadelphia. Flip the coin over and you'll see those two graceful wheat ears curving along the edges of the reverse, framing the words, 1 cent and United States of America. Below that, in smaller font, is the Latin phrase, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many, one. This design had become deeply familiar to Americans for almost 50 years. But in 1959, something changed, and the reverse of the Lincoln cent was redesigned to feature the Lincoln Memorial, to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday. That made 1958 the very last year the wheat reverse was ever minted, and the last chance to get a true Lincoln wheat penny from the original era. That's just part of what makes the 1958 wheat penny so historically significant. But wait, it gets better. You see, while millions of these coins were made, most of them were used in everyday life. They were passed through countless hands, worn down by decades of pocket time, scratched, dented, and forgotten. A few ended up in coin collections, sure, but only a tiny fraction survived in pristine condition. Even fewer came with rare minting errors or special features. And that is where the real treasure lies. So, let's talk about what you should be looking for in your 1958 wheat penny, especially if it has a mint mark under the date. First, look for the D mint mark. This means your coin was produced in Denver. While both the Philadelphia and Denver mints produced 1958 wheat pennies, the Denver ones tend to have more variety when it comes to minor flaws and interesting variations. These could be RPMs, repunched mint marks, where the mint mark was punched into the die more than once, often at a slightly different angle. That causes a subtle but noticeable doubling effect under magnification. Collectors go wild for these repunched marks, especially when they are bold and easy to see. Combine that with a sharp, uncirculated condition, and you're looking at a penny that's far from common. Now, let's talk about double die obverse. This is where things get really exciting. A double die occurs when the die, the tool used to stamp the coin, has been impressed with the coin's design more than once, but the impressions are slightly misaligned. The result? The coin appears to have doubled text or numbers, especially visible in places like Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date itself. These doubling errors are extremely rare, and in the case of the 1958 wheat penny, one of the most famous double die examples of all time comes from this year. But here's the twist. Nearly all confirmed 1958 double die examples are from the Philadelphia Mint, which means no mint marked. So, if you happen to have a 1958 wheat penny with a D mint mark and clear signs of doubling on the obverse, that's an ultra-rare find. Even minting experts debate how many exist, and if one ever surfaces in pristine condition, it could break price records. Now, let's talk about grading and condition, because this is where the coin's true potential shines. Coins are graded from 1 to 70 on the Sheldon scale. Anything above MS 60 is considered mint state, uncirculated and well preserved. Most circulated 1958 pennies today are worn, scratched, and dirty. But every once in a while, one surfaces that's been kept in near-perfect condition for over 60 years, and when those coins are professionally graded, by trusted services like NGC or PCGS, they become investment-grade collectibles. If that coin also has a desirable error, like a double die or a strong RPM, it becomes incredibly rare. Collectors and investors will compete to own it. Now imagine this: a 1958 D. Lincoln Wheat penny, featuring a sharp repunched mint mark, in MS 67 red condition, meaning full color, full luster, and not a single mark to diminish its beauty. A coin like that is not just a piece of copper, it's a piece of American history. It's a legacy. And for one lucky collector, it became the highlight of a lifetime, because when that particular penny went up for sale in a private transaction, it didn't sell for $1. It didn't sell for $100. Or even $1,000. Know that 1958 mint-marked Lincoln Wheat penny, in rare, high-grade condition, sold for a jaw-dropping $88,500, yes. A coin that once bought a stick of gum. A coin most people wouldn't bend over to pick up. That same coin, now worth more than some brand new luxury vehicles. So what's the takeaway? Simple: never underestimate the coins you carry or collect. History hides in the smallest places. And sometimes, the most ordinary-looking pennies turn out to be the most extraordinary treasures. Today, we're peeling back the layers on one of America's most beloved and historic coins, the 1953 Lincoln Wheat penny, specifically those with a mint mark. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just someone curious about the stories hidden in your spare change, this video is for you. At first glance, the 1953 wheat penny might look like a simple, everyday coin. After all, pennies have been around forever. But beneath its humble copper surface lies a rich history and an intriguing journey that can turn an ordinary penny into an extraordinary treasure. Let's wind the clock back to the early 1950s. America was in the post-war boom, with a booming economy, rock and roll just around the corner, and families settling into the comforts of suburban life. In 1953, the U.S. Mint was busy producing coins to fuel everyday commerce, and the penny was still struck with the classic wheat ears reverse design, a design that had been in place since 1909. The wheat penny's design itself is an American icon. On the front, you see the profile of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, whose leadership during the Civil War preserved the Union and ended slavery. Lincoln's likeness on the penny was groundbreaking in 1909, as it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. Around his image are the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and of course, the date, 1953. Just beneath the date, depending on the mint where the coin was produced, you might spot a small letter, D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. Coins without any letter were made in Philadelphia. Each mint mark tells a story of where the coin was struck and adds a layer of intrigue for collectors. Let's talk numbers. In 1953, the Philadelphia Mint produced a massive volume of pennies, making them fairly common. However, the Denver and San Francisco mints produced far fewer pennies, especially the San Francisco Mint. This lower mintage immediately makes the coins from these locations more desirable, especially in high condition. But what truly makes a 1953 Lincoln Wheat penny with a mint mark stand out are the varieties and minting errors that appeared during production. For instance, some coins from that year feature what collectors call repunched mint marks, RPMs. These occur when the mint mark was punched into the die more than once, slightly off-center or overlapping. This subtle doubling effect can make the coin far more valuable. In addition, some 1953 pennies show evidence of die cracks, double dies, and other rare anomalies, all of which excite collectors because they represent unique moments in the coin's history that no one can exactly replicate. But rarity alone isn't enough. Condition is king in the coin world. Most pennies from 1953 have seen decades of circulation, scratched, worn, and tarnished. Finding a 1953 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark in uncirculated or mint state condition is a true rarity. Imagine a coin that still holds its original copper luster, with sharp details in Lincoln's profile and clear, crisp wheat stalks on the reverse. That's a collector's dream. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC help verify and authenticate these pristine examples, assigning grades from 1 to 70. Coins graded above MS 65 are exceptionally rare, and those can command hefty prices at auction or in private sales. Now, imagine coming across a 1953 Denver or San Francisco minted penny, featuring a strong mint mark, with a clear repunched mint mark, and graded in near-perfect condition. You've just found a numismatic gem, a coin that's not only beautiful but also highly sought after by collectors worldwide. And here's where things get truly exciting. Over the years, some of these rare 1953 Lincoln wheat pennies with mint marks, especially those with mint errors or flawless grading, have sold for astonishing sums. Private collectors and investors alike are willing to pay top dollar for these coins. Because they aren't just copper discs, they're a tangible piece of American history, a snapshot of a bygone era, and a rare treasure with proven value. In fact, when such a coin hit the market recently, a beautifully preserved 1953 Lincoln wheat penny with a mint mark, featuring all the right qualities, it sold for an incredible $81,600. That's right, what started as 1 cent, struck over 70 years ago, is now worth tens of thousands of dollars. So next time you're sorting through that old jar of coins, or inheriting a box from a relative, don't just glance at the pennies. Look closely, especially for the year 1953, check for those tiny mint marks under the date, and consider the condition. You might just be sitting on a hidden treasure. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of the 1953 Lincoln wheat penny, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and click the bell icon so you never miss a chance to uncover more amazing coin stories. Until next time, keep your eyes sharp, your hands steady, and above all, happy collecting.